Hello and welcome to another Natter That Matters, because of all the conversations, they count, the ones in your head and outside your head. And today I have the amazing Andrea with us and her cat, it appears.
Yeah, and Jim's decided to appear. Yeah,
Jim the cat with us as well. So we do accept men on this on these interviews. Although I'm not sure how much he's going to put to it really. He's just obviously come to try and get you. But I could introduce you, but it's probably best you do it yourself really, because you know
yeah.
yourself better than I know you right now. So introduce yourself into the people who are listening and watching.
I'm just gonna comment at this point that I met a lady yesterday that said that she actually said to me yesterday, watch out for the person when your cat next appears, because it's usually the energy they put out.
Oh, and here we
So,
are.
so it's obviously you. So hello everybody. I'm Andrea Rainsford. I am a business growth mentor. I've been working in business development for about 30 years, but obviously I don't look that old. So I started when I was a mere child. Yeah, I just love seeing women succeed, really. So my passion that gets me out of bed every morning is just seeing women do well and hearing them squeal down the phone when they've got new clients and they've hit their financial targets. And yeah, that's what drives me, really.
You and I are like peas in a pod, except I've got dogs and you've got
Yeah,
cats.
and we're in pink
Yeah,
today, not green.
it's I love everything you just said there. I really get it as well. The squeal down the phone, I quite liked that one. I typically get the crying, like that euphoric crying. I get quite a lot. You get squeals, so I suppose we have
Well,
different
I do get swearing. So Charlotte England the other day was like, "Oh fuck, this shit works." Was the message I got. That one killed me. I did say to her, "Can I share it?" And she was like, "Yeah." So yeah, that I did. It's those kind of messages where you feel like you've made a huge difference to them, really.
I've got a Canadian client and she messaged said, "Are you a fucking magician?" That's what she messaged. Said basically, even just talking to me creates stuff in her world. Is like, well, yeah, you're actually bringing into your mind, bringing into the ether. You're kind of manifesting essentially, even not just for your own intention, what you want. So that's how it works. So 30 years for you. We must be similar ages. Obviously, both children
Yeah,
when we.
we that's it. You know, we're only 21. We were just child geniuses. Um,
Yeah. So how?
yeah,
What was your? How did you begin in business? What was your first
well,
foray?
it wasn't really a plan. If I'm being honest, I went to Zoe Bennett's International Women's Day event yesterday, and I said to the ladies there, never ever thought that I would be a business owner. I think for me, it was I didn't have a choice, I think is probably the best way of describing it. So without going completely through my story, I worked in corporate, worked very, very hard in corporate, because we all know women in corporate have to work harder. I don't think I'm out of order by saying that. I had a terrible time in corporate. I used to get felt up every day, touched every day. We had, I remember an event, we took one of my key accounts to Royal Birkdale, and there must have been 5 individual men that took it on themselves to knock on my bedroom door all night long. And that was the norm. And that was, you go to HR and they were like, well, you're going to ruin your career if you take this further. And that was the way that it was. And I did an 80-hour week really to keep on top of, keep up with the men, to keep, and there was a glass ceiling. I couldn't get promoted. Very sadly, I got sick. I had a stroke at 32, and it took me out of action for a very long time. So I only started walking unaided last year. So it's taken me 17 years to learn to walk.
Oh,
And
Andrea.
yeah, um, I think I think people are really, oh my God, how did you do it? Um, I think we get two choices in life, don't we? You either lie down and die, or you get up and fight. And I think that we're all presented with those choices every day. And I think we'd only been married a year, so I'd got to fight because I fought for him. I didn't really have it in it to fight for me at that time, and I think that's okay. I think if you don't have it in you to fight for yourself, it's okay to fight for somebody else until you can find the fight for you. And I just completely lost myself. I lost my identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted in life. If people asked me what I thought, I'd be like, well, Ian says and Ian thinks. And yeah, I completely and utterly lost myself. About 7 or 8 years in, I went back to university and did a degree in computing science. So I just announced one day I was going to uni in my wheelchair, and Ian just walked out the room and refused to speak to me because he was like, he just wanted to wrap me in cotton wool and keep me safe. And that was the start of the business journey, really. I graduated with a degree in computing science the week of my 40th birthday. And obviously I was 50 last year. So it's been 10 years since I graduated. And the business started the year after. So I wasn't going to be going back to corporate anytime soon. I physically wasn't able to get up, get dressed, get on the train, go into the office. So it was like, there's a lot of people around me who knew I'd got this degree, and they were like, well, can you just do this and can you just do that, and would you mind helping me with this? And that's how it started. So yeah, wasn't really, I can't say that I had any massive dreams, and I can't say that I dreamed to be a business owner, and I dreamed that I was going to hit 7 figures and that I was going to have a team and all of that. All accidental, all because of circumstance. So finding a way to earn an income and feel useful, I suppose, is the way to describe it.
Yeah. How did that first income come? Oh, come.
Do you know, I was so lucky, and I still can't quite believe that I was that lucky, really. I remember pressing I remember pressing launch on my Facebook page, feeling incredibly sick, thinking, Jesus Christ, it's actually going out into the world, and what am I going to do now? And one of my friends who I used to go to school with who's also called Andrea Seed. She saw that I'd got my degree, had no idea what had happened to me, and she picked up the phone and said, "Can you help me? Because I think you can help me with my clients." So I was so lucky. My first client was the Classic Motor Show from the NEC.
Wow.
It doesn't really get much better than that, does it? And then I was retained by them for so many years. I worked on the Classic Motor Show SEO for 5, 6 years, and I was retained by Clarion then. So Clarion events run or put on the Classic Motor Show. So I was retained then to do all of their events. So I did Baby Show, Spirit of Christmas, Classic Motor Show, Home and Garden. So I worked, the mainstay of my income in my first few years in business was a huge corporate. So I was incredibly lucky. I think there was definitely somebody looking down on me.
Absolutely. Sounds like they're saying, well, you've come through this for a reason. We're going to give you a little reward now. Well done for picking yourself up.
Yeah. Thanks for the pat on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. You were
Yeah.
doing like the SEO promotional, kind of getting all their stuff seen. Was that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, so they brought me on board to sell more tickets.
Right.
So they wanted me to increase their visibility, so they sold more tickets basically. So I got bums on seats, and that was my job. And it's funny, isn't it? Because you learn something at university, but I didn't have any agency experience. I'd never worked in an agency. I'd worked in business development all of my career. And if I'm being brutally honest with you, I didn't go into business development because I'd been so sick and I'd lost my identity. I didn't feel like that person anymore. So I thought, I can't go into business development. I can't put myself out there as a business development expert. So it was as if I hid behind the SEO banner because I'd got this newfound degree. So I can't be stupid, because they've given me a degree. I can't be thick and, I can't be rubbish at it. So I'm gonna do some SEO for a bit and see how I get on. And I was obviously quite good at it. I don't think they would have given me any money if I wasn't. So yeah.
Still do it.
I don't do SEO anymore.
No.
I gave it up last year. Yeah,
That's a shame.
It is.
I'm doing mine, so that's a shame.
Do you know, I still get asked. It's like somebody yesterday said, "Can you just come out of retirement and do mine?" And I was like, and I do say yes. If I really like you, then I'll do it. But it's a huge part of what I do. Absolutely huge part of what I do. So even though I don't just do SEO, it's in with everything I do. So I can't say I've given it up because every client I work with, it's just going to be naturally in there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? And I think we all have that thing that we'll go back to. For me, it's recruitment. So one of my first jobs was in recruitment. One of my first businesses was recruitment. That was actually my second business. And now I still get asked. And even for a client, or actually, she wasn't even really a client now, but she has been a client. Was like, can't find this member of staff. So, oh, I'll write you an advert. I'll sort it out.
Yeah, we can't help ourselves, can we?
She had no idea. I can either try and train her, or literally in half an hour I can do it. Honestly, I was just like, do you know what? It's a nice thing to do, Vivian, and I kind of enjoyed it. It's like going back to what you know, isn't it? Sometimes
Feels
it's a nice.
comfortable. It's like a comfy pair of slippers, isn't it?
That's exactly it. My wife's is hairdressing, so she'll always go back to that. She ran a hair salon.
Do,
The
do you
agency
ever do you ever ask her? Can you just give me a trim?
does mine every time I want it. Yeah, she does my hair. I've got a
That's
built-in
quite
hair.
handy, isn't
Very
it?
handy. Geez, in fact, I'm useless with hair. Honestly, I've got a lot of core skills, but hair and beauty, no, definitely not.
I've had mine cut off because it's just easier.
Yeah, me
Because
too.
my left arm still doesn't, it's still got a mind of its own from the stroke. And hair's just so hard for me. And I just
Yeah.
said to Ian in the end, "Oh, it's got to go. It's got to go. I'm
Yeah.
I'm useless at it, and it takes so much effort every time I'm trying to get out the door that I've just got to. It's just got to go. So it's
You can
gone."
teach you that next. For those that can't see us, because you're listening to us on a podcast, it's kind of wobbly. Wobbly. Actually, yours is a bit short, slightly short. We're different angled bobs, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We know we like to throw an
I didn't
angle
know
in.
to do it, actually, until about 3 weeks ago. I was growing it again, and then I just kept looking at myself, going, "Oh, I can't be bothered with it." Because actually, what happens is when it gets long, you just put it up anyway, don't you? I was like, "What's the
Exactly.
point?"
It was always on top of my head. It was absolutely, if it was an important meeting or I got a new client, then possibly I'd do my hair. But
Yeah.
it was so much effort in the morning. I just can't be bothered with it. I mean, these people that put a full face of makeup on and do the hair every morning, I'm sorry, but I'm in awe of you because I just can't do it.
When they've got kids, you women that have got kids and you do that, honestly,
Yeah,
it's as
good.
much as
Yeah.
bra on. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, one of those women. Okay, if I go to a conference or anything, I'm like, I've had a bra on for 3 days solid. I'm like, oh God, I can't
You
wait to get it
can't
off.
wait to take it off, can you? As soon as we come off here, it's going to be, pajamas on, even though it's what, 6 o'clock at night.
Yeah. Oh,
I, li- I
well,
like I like being in my pajamas with take your bra off.
definitely, yeah. Well, it sounds like you had a bit of a helping hand, but like you say, you went through the journey of learning and then you were gifted back with this. And so essentially your first years of self-employment were single contracts essentially with this
Yeah,
feeding you. So you probably didn't have to go into you didn't have to go into business development, marketing, selling, kind of creating, well, as we know, like funnels and freebies and all that sort of stuff, did you? Because you already had that coming in for yourself.
I was
So
just
what
very lucky. Yeah, there was a lady that left Clarion and she went to move with another company called Elite Exhibition. So I had them as well. So I was very lucky with referral work. But then obviously COVID turned everybody's world upside down, including mine, because obviously events stopped. So my income stopped overnight. And my husband got made redundant. My parents were both terminally ill.
Oh
Um,
God.
and I was like, okay, I've got to look after them 3-4 days a week. I've got to look after Ian. It's now the baton's been passed to me to, I was doing quite well with income anyway, but then it was just solely down to me. So I basically, when your back is up against the wall, you just come out fighting, don't you? Really, and
Some people do.
needs must. There wasn't any other income coming into the house, so it was down to me, and that was when I created my first mastermind program. And again, I think I was very lucky. I think there was somebody looking down on me. I filled it as soon as I created it. I filled it, and it was like a visibility mastermind to help people to get clients. So it was business development and SEO.
Mm.
And that was when it dawned on me that I'd got a unique skill set. I'd got business development and digital marketing and SEO experience, and I think I've run 3-4 masterminds now, and it's completely changed this year. So it's called the Sold Out Services Mastermind this year because I finally last year put my big girl pants on and said I've got to go back out into the business development world. So I think it SEO was making me unhappy. And the reason it was making me unhappy was I'd get a lot of people come to me and say, I need you to put keywords into my website, and can you do that now? And I think I got bored of working in the back of websites, but also I needed to explain to people that it isn't as simple as just adding a few keywords to your website. there was so many steps before that, and a lot of people just didn't want to pay for it. Whereas when I'd worked in corporate, nobody queried it, and so
No.
there was a lot of unhappiness in me. And then Ian said, "You can do this. You help people turn their businesses around every day." So last year I just bit the bullet and launched Andrea Rainsford Creating Business Growth, and I've had my best year. So I think passion and doing what you love, there's such a lot to be said for it, because I think people can just tell, can't they?
Absolutely. Congratulations. I get what you mean. Business is lonely, and especially if you're not in quite right the business. It's like little known fact. So my first ever business was 2002. So I don't know if you remember that far back, when the internet was just really in its real
Yeah,
infancy.
yeah.
This business, and I didn't have a freaking clue what I was doing. I'd worked for ad agencies, design agencies, so I really understood selling and marketing. And I was, since a very, very young age, since I was 21 actually, and I know I'm only 30 now, but for a long,
Yeah.
long time.
Such a
Yeah,
baby.
no, such a baby. So I knew the concept of it, but when you do it for yourself, it's very different, isn't it? And I remember having this website, and I thought, well, I need to be able to manage this. So I went on a 3-day training with certain web software, because it used to be that way back then. And then I learned how to do it, and I learned how to do SEO. And I look back at that, and I wouldn't have ever called myself an expert. But when I sold that business 4 years later, what I really sold was the website, because I held the #1 organic position for the phrases sugar-free and low carb for 4 years solid. And I remember I had a letter from Diabetes UK who said, "We don't understand, and you're causing us problems because
Yeah,
your
we can't beat you.
can't beat you." And I sold sugar-free and diabetic and low carb products, so they didn't want me at the top of that natural search listing.
They
They were
wanted
having,
to be there. Yeah.
so they had to put sponsored links out on Google to get to
Shame.
the top.
Terrible.
So I didn't sell to them in the end. I sold to another competitor, but that was what I sold essentially. Not really the assets of the business essentially, but that was the biggest asset. So yeah, so I must have learned some stuff. But can I tell you the reason I was curious that I just said to you, just still do it, is I've not really done much of it for my own website now. And I just think, why haven't you, like, I mean, I know it's changed a lot. I mean, it's changed a lot in the last 20
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
but it's still the same. I think, why haven't you done that?
The principles are still the same. I think what they won't stand for anymore is word stuffing, and what they want is people that are just going to keep coming back because your content's amazing, and they want to, it's a quality website. There's quality interactions, there's quality links, quality content. That's what they want. What they want is you to move away from the brochure sites where you're just sending people there. And I do get on my soapbox on occasion and say that if you're just putting out a brochure site, it's a complete and utter waste of time and money, because you're not an expert at building websites. You're wasting your time when you should really be paying somebody else to do it. Because what people think is, well, I'm saving money, but they're not actually saving money, because they're using time when they could be working on their business, doing what they're brilliant at. They're actually doing something else. Whereas, while you're saving money, or you're waiting till you've got enough money to pay an expert, you can be creating landing pages in MailerLite. You can be using other forms of, to gather information and to share your products, because, what Google want is a website that, people are finding, and they're clicking on it, and they're staying, and they're dwelling, and they're doing what you want them to do. Brochure sites, I hear all the time, yeah, but I've got to have a website. I've got to have a presence. You haven't, gone are the days where you just need to send somebody somewhere. If it's, I personally think, if you've done it yourself and the design isn't great and it doesn't perform on a mobile device, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot if you're sending your clients there anyway, because they're going to look at it and think, well, that's not particularly professional. That's not a great site. Creating a landing page in MailerLite is going to be far more professional than trying to conjure a website together. So yeah.
I totally agree with you. Couldn't agree any more with that. It's and actually, it's not essentially how we do business. I think for me, it's become important because I've got a lot of online products. I've got a lot.
And me too. Yeah.
Buy them there, don't they? But yeah, so that was when you said about SEO, and that's weird because I've been talking about it all week. But there was and I bet you have this as well when you're in a room. So I was in a networking event yesterday, a different one than I go to normally, and there was more men than normally. Everything I go to has got a lot of women in it. And there was a guy there that does websites, and he said, "Who here's got a website?" And I suppose there's about 30 people. Everybody puts their hand up all proudly. "Oh, I've got a website."
Yeah, I've got a website. Yeah.
He said, and how many? He said, and put your hand up again if you get leads from it. And it was like fucking tumbleweed. Honestly, there was a few of us kind of gingerly put our hand up, thinking, "Oh, I don't really want to be singled out here because I don't want to have to talk to this guy about my website." But it was definitely, there was one that, you know, there's always a proud one. Yes, I spent years doing this, and then yeah, and I was kind of putting my hand up, but the rest of them, none. Yeah, so like you say, complete waste of time and money, really. Then yeah,
I think it is, and I think that if people were willing to pay the money to do what needs to be done, then I'd still be in it. But
yeah.
I think the perception out in the business world is that you just need to throw a few keywords on your pages, in your content, and Bob's your uncle and Fanny's your aunt, and that's it. And if it was that simple, I've got a client at the moment that we're absolutely at loggerheads over the website and the content, because she just wants to put a brochure out. And I said, you've paid me a lot of money. This is what you need to put out. You can't make them do what you know what they should be doing, because you know it's that they need to have you know a keyword for each product or service. It needs to be, you know, the content has to have a lot of LSI words in there, so words that are linked to that topic, because what Google expect from you now is a complete comprehensive piece of content. So if you put out a blog on social media, for example, and you just put social media all the way through it and you don't put out the words that are linked to it, you're not going to rank. So the words that Google are going to be expect to be linked to social media are like the social media platforms, hashtags, trending. They expect those words to be in your copy if you're an authority on that topic. And they have an artificial intelligence bot called Bert that reads your content. If it's crap and it doesn't think that it's, you know, of any consequence or authority, then it'll downgrade you.
Just had a massive realization about why my recruitment agency was so successful. Because I mean, apart from I'm awesome, obviously, but actually,
Well, yeah.
But it wasn't a traditional recruitment agency, it was recruitment advertising. So of course those key skills I learned, which is what we forget actually as we go through life, we forget where we've learned these. But the SEO skills came into force when I was writing job adverts, because they're all featuring on the top job boards. And mine obviously had a lot of brilliant keywords in, not too many, because that's the other thing people do wrong, isn't it?
Yeah,
And not
stuff it, yeah.
and all within the conversation of it, and actually then how to put the headline and catch people's attention. And we got a really good reputation for getting really far up, because you know people are only going to search first page, second page at best, and also and then the response. And that is essentially what marketing is, isn't it? I don't think people really understand. It's essentially getting your things shown and responded to. That is the thing. That's
we make it too complicated, don't we? So business is basically, you're brilliant at something, you've got a solution that somebody wants and they buy it. It is that simple. And marketing is the same, is about getting that product or service found, and then they buy it. And I think you know, I did a talk for Tracy Salter, and I said we make it far more complicated than it is. And you know, my top tips for, you know, for growing your business and getting consistent revenue in is basically, you've got to take your niche to its nth degree, and you've got to be solving a real need. Because what I see all day, every day, is so many amazing businesses, but their niches are nice to have. So, you know, a typical nice to have niche is me, and my brand photos took me 3 years to get around to it, because it was something that just wasn't high on my priority list. I knew that I needed to put a professional, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Position out there, that I needed people to think that I was worthwhile and credible and authoritative and all the rest of it. But it was on my list, but it was a nice to have. It wasn't something that I had any urgency about. And that's what we have to do with our in niches, especially at the moment. You know, 2 years ago, it used to be about 10 touch points before people would buy from us. At the moment, it's about 20. It's practically doubled. And that's because it doesn't matter how much money you're earning, whether you've got very little money or you've got a lot of money. We're all being incredibly careful, because we're all feeling the pinch. Doesn't matter what level we're at. We're all being that little bit extra careful. And so it's taking those extra touch points to be able to part with our money, because we're taking longer in our decision making, and we're being, do I need that? And so that's where, at the moment, especially if you haven't got a niche that's got urgency to buy, businesses are going to struggle. And that's the biggest thing that I see, is that ladies come to me and say, well, I've got a niche, and they're very, very proud of it. And they usually do get a little bit upset and emotional with me, because our businesses are personal and we're very proud of them and we love them, and we are, we've nurtured them like children. And then when somebody comes along and says, but, and starts taking it apart and nitpicking, you can get a little bit defensive, can't you? And
especially if it's taken you a long time to get to that. Like, it's a
yeah,
real journey, isn't it? I know, if I look back at what I was saying, 9 years ago, which is how long this business has been incarnated, for all of a better description, what I was saying then actually still is the same, but actually I say it in a slightly different way. It's accompanied by other things. I still help people get out their own fucking way, which is what I probably was one of the
yeah.
first to say that. And now a lot of people say it. So it's now not got any real uniqueness to it. So it's like finding something. It's virtually impossible because all the words are being used, and they're being overused. Like the word empowerment is overused. The word
Yeah. I think that the way that we're different in the mastermind and what I teach is that we bring all the SEO data back in. So rather than using it for SEO, we use it to validate their niche.
Mm.
And I think I'm quite unique in that. I don't know anybody else that does it. I think because obviously it comes back to having a really unique skill set. We've all got a unique skill set. And I started using it to validate niches before. So we don't do business planning or strategy or ideal client. We start with the niche, and everybody's like, well, I want to get down that end. I want to start creating offers. We're not doing that. We're going back up here, and we're going to validate your niche first. And they don't like it because they think that their niche is the bee's knees and it's amazing and they don't want to touch it. And if they're not getting consistent leads and consistent clients and revenue, it's always the niche. It's 99.9%, it's always the niche. And that's why it's the first thing that I attack. And we use data and research to make sure that we've validated it. And then we use that data and research to create a value ladder and offers. Because a lot of the time we go to market and it's like tumbleweed, like you said. We put things out there and nothing's happening because we haven't done any work to make sure that there's supply and demand, to make sure that the people want to buy it. Because it's a very, very different to go into your Facebook group and go into your LinkedIn profile and saying, would anybody buy this? People actually saying, yes, they would buy it, and parting with their money are two completely different things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody says yes until there's cash involved. And then it's, oh, no, I can't afford it, or I'm not free, or, oh, it's not quite the thing, or whatever. Yeah, you learn that really painfully. I did a reel actually this week. Anybody watching this, you'll know the timing of when we recorded this. So it's going out live. But I did a reel. It's a trending audio about how much time you put into something and how you've wasted it. And I did one about creating online courses. Like, you create the course and expect them to come, and they don't do that. And I've seen that so much. I've never been that person, actually. I've always pre-sold everything, and if I can't pre-sell it, it doesn't exist, including events, everything like that. So many people spend months and months sculpting, changing, adapting, switching names, changing graphics. You're like, have you fucking sold any yet? No. Who's buying this? Like, sell it, sell one, and now you've got some time and some money to be able to invest back into the course. And no, can't sell it. And that has had so many people message me directly and go, oh my God, that's me. Why didn't I hear that? Even that tiny little thing, go, no, just test, everybody wants it. And I think that we think, because we're in this industry, that it's really logical. But actually, to people who are starting out in business, or even are just getting carried away, or almost those people, like you're saying, that you've got in your client base, don't want to do that bit. They want to get to the bit where they're selling stuff. They want to get to the bit where they're
they want the
serving.
money. They just want money, and they come in.
For the impact. So, like, a lot of my clients, it's not always about the money. In fact, it rarely is. It's about the impact. Want to do the thing they love. They want to coach the people or provide the service or whatever. And of course, you can't do that if no one comes. No.
I think that's the sad thing, isn't it? And I think, there's some people that say to me, "Oh, I don't like research and I don't like data. I need to feel it and all this." And I get that. You've got to feel it. We start, when we're creating a niche, I always say it's got to start with your passion. If you don't absolutely love, feel it, want to wear it 24 hours a day, then doesn't matter whether all the data in the world validates it, you're not going to create a sustainable business. You've got to want it, love it, be passionate about it, and you've got to be great at it, and we move on from there. But a lot of ladies they don't like the data bit, and I said, but that's the make or break bit for me. That's how I know whether this is going to go out into the marketplace and it's going to make you some money, because if it isn't there, we're not doing it. And
your big corporates, you couldn't go into them and say, well, I've got a feeling that this is going to happen, or I just think this is going to work this time because I watched someone else do it and it worked for them. We don't know if it worked for them. We're just assuming it worked for them.
Well, yeah, because anybody can say anything and we'll believe it.
I remember years ago I worked for a design agency, like I said, and there was a guy called Gavin. He was quite ego-driven, very creative type. And he taught me a very valuable lesson. I was his sales executive, and I remember we went to Blockbuster Video. Don't know if you remember those back in the day.
Yeah, I remember Blockbusters. Yeah.
For all their kind of all of their merchandise for the store for a certain video movie that was coming out. And I remember coming back from the pitch, and he said to me, "So did we get the business?" I said, "Oh, they really like the designs. They're looking at another one, and I really think strongly it's going to come in." He said, "I can't pay your wages on thinking strongly, though." And the best bit of advice, because I spent a lot of time in account manager, account exec roles, and it was the best bit of advice of, until you've got that money, then that's not a sale. And I think that was a really, really, really relevant. And I've had members of my team that, oh no, I think this, no, I don't want any thinks or anything. And I worked for a bloke called John, a couple called Pam and John in the beauty industry. So I launched all their beauty products into different parts of the world, actually. And they used to have a plaque on their desk that said, "In God we trust, all others bring numbers." Literally was, and that was the upgrade of that. Like, yeah, all others bring numbers. Yeah, be like, if you've got any figures, we don't want to know. We don't want to know what your thoughts.
I mean, I've never had an analytical brain. I've never been into numbers. I was awful at maths at school. But what doing a degree in computing science gave me was an understanding, like you said, and it's brought an extra string to my bow that I can help my clients to make sure that what they're putting out into the world, there's a need for it. And also that the really interesting thing about it is we're using our clients' words back at them. So how they want, what kind of solutions they want, what they're looking for. We then have to educate them. Yeah, we know this is what the solution is that you want. This is how we're going to get you to where you need to be. It's that, what because they're not professionals, they're not going to know how to fix it. But we have to understand how they're looking for solutions so we can be found, we can be visible, we can attract, and then we educate them. So I talk a lot about the transformation process behind the scenes. When people used to come to me and say, "Can you add some keywords to my website?" I used to say, "There's 12 steps involved in this process." And I used to have to take them through all 12 steps, and the website and the keywords were the final 3 steps. And they used to say, "But I only want that bit." If you want that bit, you've got to do all of this bit. And that's what we have to do, isn't it? We have to educate them on, this is where you want to be. This is your dream. This is your, the success that you're looking for. We've got to do all of this work to get you there. And sometimes they can't afford it. Sometimes they don't have the budget. And that's where value ladders come in. Your value ladder should take people from where they are to where they want to be. You're not always going to get where you want to be with what the budget you've got in the pot.
No, and very rarely, in fact. But people do look for a quick fix in all areas of life, don't they? I mean, me myself, if I could wake up as a size 12 tomorrow, I would pay any amount of money for that quick fix. But actually, someone said they're consistently going to help me. I don't want that consistency. I don't want that help. I want the outcome. Like, the outcome is what we're driven by. And anybody that's listening or watching Andrea and I have this conversation, which we very vehemently agree with, I want you to now know how much you know about what Andrea does based on the fact of her background and her niche, her unique sexy point, as I call it. There's lots and lots of business coaches, business strategists, whatever you want to call these, us essentially. But actually, each one has a niche. And if we don't find what that niche is, we don't find that superpower, mine's clearly mindset and, training and certifying coaches. But if we don't find that, no one knows who we are and no one remembers us. So if you already know and got a really good sense of what Andrea does, just realize that's because she has put that work into the niche in the first place, just even from her own perspective, let alone what anyone else needs. So if you are resistant, and the reason I'm putting this out there, Andrea, is so many coaches, I mean, I coach and mentor a lot of coaches, as you can imagine, niche in. They are, I mean, so resistant. I want to help everybody, or I want to help women, or I want to help people in corporate, or I want to help people in business. Do what? How? What? Like, you have to be more specific, otherwise
you do. My superpowers is creating value ladders and niches. It is that simple. I realized quite early on in my business development journey that I create value ladders that make money. The last 2 value ladders that I've created, they tripled what they paid me in the first month. And that isn't any fluke. It's because we're all great at something. All of us that are listening we are absolutely brilliant at something, and it's about working out what that is. So I will grow your business through, you know, by is going to come from is the niche and your value ladder and your irresistible offer. That is what I do. But for me, it's about giving women their freedom back. It's about women that work on their own, solopreneurs that went into business because they thought it was going to be easier. So they'd spend more time with their families, more time with their kids. They thought they'd get their life back. And what's actually happened is they're working more hours. They're flogging themselves to death. They don't see the kids. They don't see the other half. They're in bed at night on the phone, and they're not actually making any money. And those are the women that are, you know, come to me and say, right, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to get a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Hear it all day, every day, and some names that you don't expect it to come from as well. Yeah. So there's so many areas, and I have lots of people on this A Natter That Matters. And the other thing is the figures. They don't want to know about the figures, so they don't know they're making any money, or if they're not making any money, that's the other side of it. So, so it's been lovely to hear you. So what's next for you? So what's the next plan? Because it sounds like there's a lot of luck involved, which of course the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's my strong belief. So I don't know. Luck. So, if you did choose what your next step was, what might it be?
I think I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, and I'm just seeing where it goes. So I had a tumour removed from my throat last year, and I knew that I wasn't well enough to market my business the way that I normally was. I couldn't put the hours in. So I opened up my Facebook group, which I'd closed down when my mum passed away because I just didn't have the energy for it. I was so sad that I just couldn't do it. And so last year I thought, right, I need a captive audience to market to while I'm not very well. I can just schedule some posts while I'm off. And so Women Winning in Business was born last October. And we started off with, I think there was 150, and as of today, we've got 900 women in there. So it's grown in a very short space of time. I've no idea where it's going. I think that what I'm told is I bring people together, and I create beautiful spaces, and I love that. And that's what I'm trying to do, is I just want to give women a space where they can belong. They can be themselves. We've got a lot of nervous women in there that are nervous of networking, that are nervous of saying what they do, that are nervous about standing up. So I've started putting events on. We have an online networking at the end of every month, on the last Monday of every month at 10 o'clock. We had 71 people the last time register, which blew me away. We've got our first face-to-face event on the 27th of April, where we're all coming together, and I've called it an Abundance Day. So I want it to be about abundance in your business, but also in your life. So we've got energy abundance, we've got mindset abundance, we've got it's about you as well as your business. And then I've actually put an online summit on the 15th of May. Now I'm not really a fan of online summits. I don't really like spending all day, but the reason that I've done it is because there's so many of them that have never done a keynote, that have never practiced their speaking skills, that have never stood up in front of an audience before. So I want to give them a really, really safe space where they can go and practice, and they can come in front of us.
Love it so much. So I think we're quite new to each other. So back in 2018, I was doing the same. So way before, because exactly that. And there was lots of keynote speakers from all over the world, actually, who just needed that opportunity and just needed that kind of confidence, really. Lots of, like you say, nervous. You and I are on the same mission, just in slightly different ways by the sound of it. If you need a mindset coach for your mission, let me know.
You need to come in. You need to come and help, because there's so many of them that are terrified, and they lurk in the background because they're so scared of even today. Today on Thursdays is Share Your Offers Day. There's so many of them that are scared to put the links out and say what they do, they're hopefully learning that if there's any unkindness in that space, I'll boot them out the door. Because I won't stand for any nastiness of any kind, because it's just not nice, is it?
We have the same values when we met, didn't we? We just knew it, right? We did. 27th of April. I haven't got anything in my diary, so please do send me.
You better be there.
Whereabouts in the world? Birmingham.
It's at the Belfry. So it's at the Belfry's between Birmingham and Sutton Coldfield, just off Junction 9 with the M42. I got married there.
Oh, did you? I used to go to the Bel Air nightclub when I was very young.
We probably in there at the same time.
I don't think I was legally allowed to be there because my friend
No,
was
neither
2
was
years. I
I.
think I was about 17, maybe even 16 looking back.
Oh,
Oh,
I was 16 when I first went. We were probably there at the same time. How old are you this year?
I'm 51 or 52 this year now.
I'm
Yeah.
51 in July, so we probably were there at the same time.
But yeah, send details of that. And so if people want to get hold of you, Andrew, to find out more, join your community, is
Yeah,
it all on your website?
yeah.
Everything?
Best place to get me is LinkedIn, Andrea Rainsford, business growth expert, and there is a link at the top of my profile to join the Women Winning in Business group on Facebook. So it would be a pleasure to have you. It's just all I want to create is a beautiful community of people that feel supported, really.
Sounds lovely. I'll definitely be there. Send me it over. Would love to. Get in touch with Andrea. Find her on LinkedIn. Love that. Easy enough. You can see the spelling from the post or wherever you're looking at this and reading this. And I'm very pleased that we've connected further. And I feel quite sure it will happen more and more because, you know, there are a lot of people out in the world, and you must know this as well, but not all of them actually are walking their talk or are as genuine as they say they are. So when you meet people that are, it's just a joy, isn't it? It's just a bloody joy.
You put a post in your group the other day and you said, what's the reason why you're here? And I was just brutally honest and said, it's you. It's the way that you put things out. It's the words that you use. It's you talk to my soul. And that is, you know, I knew there was, you know, I was booked to come on your podcast in October. But then obviously the operation came around and I couldn't speak. So obviously they slit my throat and my voice disappeared overnight. So
Laughing about that. I mean, I don't think that was a breakdown at the thought of that. Like it's my whole living.
I've got a high top on there. You can just about see my scar across there. It's not too bad. But yeah, I sounded like a Dalek for about 8 weeks. So I had to cancel it because I didn't think your listeners would appreciate it.
I'd have had to have been interpreting, and I'm not really that good at that. I don't think. I'm slightly deaf in one ear myself, so I don't think I would have probably caught the words anyway. But the universe has a plan, definitely has a plan. So, and it all is orchestrated.
Yeah,
so
it happened in March instead.
and here we are. So, thank you so much. It's been a joy,
Thank
as I
you.
thought. And yeah, I shall see you at your event, and hopefully in your wherever your memberships or your groups or wherever, and hopefully you can come over and do the same in
Yeah, I'd
ours.
love that. And yeah, Jim says thanks. Thank you for having him.
It's all right, Jim. Thanks for being here.
He's fast asleep. Look. Can you see he's on my lap? Look, there's his little head. Look, there he is.
Oh God, he says, if I can't sleep anywhere else, I'll sleep. Thank you very much. Time for the sofa, Mum. Lovely to have you here, darling. And
Thank you.
yes, thanks, Andrea.